Kia ora koutou. I'm Finn from the British High Commission. I'm really grateful for the association having me here today for a few minutes to talk to you a little bit about what we do at the High Commission on Science and Technology and what I specifically do as our AI policy lead. This is a title that you kind of see versions of on our banner, you'll see on our work, but I think broadly we also started today with that co-pupper as well about challenge and finding challenges, knowing challenges in our communities. So after hearing so many interesting bits of your work and research and areas of interest today, I hope some of this kind of follows that thread as well. But yeah, broadly, who are we? We're the Science and Technology Network. We are based within the British High Commission, so the embassy on Hill Street, just over there. But we're a network of locally engaged staff and UK-based or diplomats around the world who lead on science diplomacy and building science partnerships for the UK. I'll get into a little bit of what that actually involves, but broadly, we are interested in this idea of innovation, partnership, and the essential international component of solving those biggest challenges. We'll just scroll down here. We work at Post, so in this case in Wellington, but with colleagues in Auckland, with other parts of the UK government. So that's the Department of Business and Trade, sort of the NZTE equivalent we have. That's components of MFAT, the British Council, and DSIT, which is the sort of science bit of MB, Department for Science, Innovation and Technology in the UK. Some of this may be familiar to you, and I know a theme that has also come up today is that there are many people already working with UK researchers, people who might be familiar with our work at the High Commission, or have had versions of this presentation before. So I apologise if that's the case. But I think it's always good to put it in that kind of context, especially because we used to be called the Science and Innovation Network. We are the Science and Technology Network now. It's not as good an acronym. We used to have all these group chats with like SINAs and stuff like that. It was very funny. STN doesn't roll off the tongue as well, but basically it's the same work. We're the same people, and we have those same priorities, which are, broadly, to promote, to inform, and to partner. So the promotion bit is pretty obvious. We are cheerleaders for UK scientists and technologists, innovators, people working on things to address challenges like we're going to talk a bit about. We inform. So we are, as I said in that structure of organisations before, we are the designated contact points in embassies and high commissions around the world for questions about what New Zealand is doing. So what are New Zealand innovators up to? What scientific advancements and areas of interest coming out of New Zealand? What are the priorities of your work, financing, partners, complementary capability, all of that sort of thing. And then from doing those two jobs, we hope to do the third, which is to find partnerships, to see, as we're telling stories about New Zealand to the UK, stories about the UK to New Zealand, trying to find those overlaps in the middle where there is an opportunity to do some work together. And we're not measured by commercial metrics, we're not measured on amounts of something sold or investment, we're measured on what is the volume of work and collaboration and progress we're making together, which I think, again, is also just one of those things that's nice to put out there because, different people will tell you different things, different people have different metrics. Our interest really is what is the work we're doing together, what is the value that people are working towards. And I thought, as an example of kind of the work we are doing, these are multidisciplinary projects. These are not pure computer science projects, and I was up at CDSAO's graduate showcase the other week. I know this is not exhaustive. I know there are lots of interesting examples that you may be aware of or may be involved in. But to give you an idea of what our relationship looks like these days between the UK and New Zealand, I also want to put it in this context of our bilateral science arrangement. So about 3.5 years ago now, we had an arrangement signed at Prime Minister level to do that kind of deepening work, not to start a new relationship, because it is an old relationship, but to really intensify and dig into more of what we're doing already so well. And we're now, 3.5 years in, I guess. We're starting to see a little bit of what that looks like. And as our AI policy lead for the UK and New Zealand, conversations I'm hoping to have over the next couple of days. I had some great ones today already. The kind of areas of interest I'm looking into are where are your priorities? What are the challenges you're trying to address? What kind of resources, research, people do you need to find your way towards that goal? And this is an interesting example. So in our bilateral work program, we have a bit of a focus on quantum. New Zealand has fantastic quantum optics capabilities. And a really interesting project that came out of this, which started as a sort of proof of concept, led by our National Physical Laboratory in the UK at Teddington. And then, as it was then, the RSET, or Rapid Characterization of Earthquakes and Tsunamis project, which was an NPL-MSL joint. We had this initiative to bring on board NPL researchers to apply this technique of quantum optical, always stumble over this, interferometry. So yeah, basically measuring the turbulence or the disturbance in the optical signal with very precise lasers along a section of the seabed. This is the Southern Cross Next cable, and that red section in the middle, this is a GNS graphic, is where we were doing this study. This worked very well. It's very accurate, it's very cheap compared to a lot of other systems. These kinds of systems are always kind of combinations of lots of things, but it's very scalable. There are a lot of these cables already out there. It is very cheap, it is very reliable. So we've been really excited over the last few years to see those person-to-person relationships grow, to see a little bit more, thinking about what is the structure of this long term, what are the ambitions, and naturally with the area of the world we're in, the risks that seismic hazards present, and particularly the involvement of the ocean and this sort of novel method with cables, that is really, really resonant. No pun intended, in areas of tsunamis, earthquake, early warning, where even a minute, we heard about that golden hour of strokes earlier, even a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes makes a huge difference if you're needing to move people in huge numbers from a tsunami. So we've been really excited that this is continuing. We have a sort of path forward now, and I think in September, we're really excited to see that the next generation early warning project under Earth Sciences New Zealand now, that's continuing to receive funding from Endeavour through the next few years. And it's just one example of where work that was already ongoing, people who already knew each other, but were looking for that structure and a little bit of the signposting and resource opportunities which we hope to introduce people to. That was what we were able to do with this. As I say, it's ongoing, so hopefully in a few years we'll come back and there'll be another really exciting development. And I think also, just to make a point about scalability, because this is so scalable, the amounts of data you're handling when this is just 3 organizations on this small section of cable, it's very significant, but it's not unmanageable. And as you get bigger, and as you really start to see the impacts for the region, the opportunities for the region, that's where the data science and the really smart AI stuff also comes in. So yeah, excited to see what Bill Fry and the team get up to here. Another example, this one's a little bit more recent, and this is also ongoing. We have a project led by RAL Space, which is Rutherford Atherton Labs' space division in the UK. This is, we were able to announce this earlier this year, and in October, at the very beginning of October, we were able to announce the organisations taking part in it. This is our EO4NZ, so Earth Observation for New Zealand project, and over the next few months, these organisations, mix of New Zealand and UK, are working together to, again, work towards some challenges, test some solutions, and see if there are things that we could, build on further, that we could scale up further. But across a really wide range of geographies, applications, end users, public health in there, advanced aviation, agriculture, high-value grass crops, kiwi fruit, and all of these things, again, come back to things which I find when you're going out and having conversations on the road, these are things that people experience in their communities every day. People's livelihoods, people's food security and job security, people's prosperity. And the biggest issues of our time, the climate crisis, things like that, are things that will be felt across the whole world in some way, but very unevenly. So what we try and do, again, in that storytelling piece is connect the technology, the end users, our specific geographies towards some kind of recognizable solution, and then try and explain that to the public, bring them along the journey as well. I think I was going to leave a little bit of this to Hugo, but I know he's not been able to join us. But I also wanted to highlight Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe, again, will be familiar to many of you. It is the world's largest single contestable research funding vehicle. I think between 2021 and 2027, the envelope is 95.5 billion euros, which is very significant. And over the last couple of years, we've been really excited to see New Zealand join as an associated member, and the UK to rejoin as an associated member as well. So some of you may be in teams working on bids. Some of you may have gone to the roadshow recently that our colleagues at MB put on. But it is a very exciting opportunity to do, grand-scale international collaboration in science, it is also, a significant undertaking. And as, as fellow associated countries, as a system with a fair bit of experience in these kinds of bids, we're always happy to talk about Horizon Europe, about what the process to scaling into Horizon Europe, and maybe the projects that get you there in between to build the research base and evidence base that's needed to access these really significant amounts of money. Always happy to talk about that. I think Hugo is sort of the authority in that, so I'll leave for him to follow up in those areas. But really, the question I want to leave you with is what is next, because we've done, I think, quite a lot in the last 3 years. AI is an area which, in some way we're all aware is eating the world, in some exciting ways, in some terrifying ways, but in ways that creates lots of opportunity, lots of things to think about. It's also an area in which we have not done a huge amount in the past. It's sort of threaded through a lot of our work. Under those Earth observation demonstrators, there is a lot of clever data science. I talked a little bit about the scaling questions with our quantum seismic work, but this is somewhere we're really interested to hear about your priorities and to do a little bit of that second pillar work. So informing, talking to the UK, explaining what your priorities and interests are. And if there are introductions we can make, if there are conversations we can have, that's an area that we're really keen to be helpful. I think I've kept okay to time. I think I might also be right between you and afternoon tea, so I don't want to hold us too long. I will put my email up, and I will be around in the break. I'll be here tomorrow. So if anyone's interested in having a conversation, very interested to hear from you. Thank you.